Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, let me say I'm honored to serve with you on this committee and as the ranking member of the Oversight Investigation Subcommittee. I enjoyed getting to know you better when we met at your office the other day and look forward to working with you together in this important endeavor. I spent the last 20 years as a commercial real estate broker and focused on industrial properties, which got me involved in transportation, logistics, and supply chains. I'm glad we're doing a hearing on this important topic today. Thank you for your leadership. My grandfather served in the European theater during World War II, and I'm passionate about taking care of our veterans. To that end, I appreciate the women and men working at the Department of Veterans Affairs who provide health care benefits and dignified burials to our brave veterans. Living up to the promises made to our service members is part of our constitutional obligation and our duty to care for our nation's heroes. Our responsibility here is to make sure the VA as an institution is efficient, responsive, and accountable. The programs must work. Too often, we let organizational charts and political rhetoric stop progress. This does not take care of our veterans. People do. That is why my goal will always be to foster an environment in the VA where dedicated people can succeed. I want to thank our witnesses for participating in this hearing to discuss VA's medical supply chain. I look forward to your testimony. I believe as a country, our brightest days are yet to come, and we need to begin recovering from this pandemic by opening the economy. Now is the time to begin taking stock of how VA's medical supply chain has performed and whether it has been strengthened enough for the future. A year ago, the unexpected happened and the pandemic decimated every supply chain. There was no choice but to improvise. The VA adopted a contingency posture and rationed supplies. The news reports we saw of nurses and orderlies reusing personal protective equipment day after day was distressing. VA also started several new initiatives, few of which have been completed. All we know for sure about the next challenge is that there will be one, and it will be different. I want to explore what VA has learned over the past year, specifically which innovations should be adopted permanently, and how can the new initiatives support the ongoing COVID response while also strengthening the supply chain to withstand the next challenge. Mr. Chairman, I was alarmed to learn from the hearing that you had last Congress that an end-to-end medical supply chain still does not exist in the department. As we discuss the major ongoing initiatives, I think we must emphasize unity of effort. First, there is DEMLS. VA clearly needs a more modern inventory and supply chain management IT system, and the Department of Defense is a reasonable place to look. I appreciate VA attempting to accelerate DEMLS from an 8-year implementation to 5 years, but this is still too slow. Bringing the system up to full capability at its first and only site took almost 2 years. I did not see how this program can successfully be implemented unless something fundamentally changes. I also understand there's a new version of the software called Logical set to be available in a year. This seems to put VA between a rock and a hard place. The options are to continue installing DEMLS now, only to replace it with Logical later and duplicate costs, or defer immediate improvements and wait to implement Logical. Turning to the regional readiness centers, I understand the decision to hold greater physical inventories. Tabling the fact that the centers cannot be fully operational until 2023, I'm struggling with how VA can be signing agreements for warehouses without answering some basic questions. For instance, what items will be held in these warehouses? Unless the plan is to restore massive quantities of every medical supply, how can anyone predict which items will be needed in future emergencies? And how will physical inventories be integrated with the just-in-time inventory model used by the rest of the department? VA has already committed to 2 regional readiness centers and 2 more in the process. However, before VA sinks $1 billion of taxpayer money into startup costs, not to mention ongoing operational costs, I think we need a lot more answers and to potentially explore other options. The VA does not need to start from scratch. One option is the Defense Department's War Stopper program, which you referenced earlier, which pays suppliers to hold emergency inventories on the government's behalf. Last Friday, Ranking Member Bost, Mr. Chairman, I introduced H.R. 2082, the VA Supply Chain Resiliency Act, which would require VA to partner with DoD to gain access to the War Stopper program. At the very least, War Stopper should make the regional readiness centers less risky. I believe VA sees the value in this approach, and I look forward to working together to get it done quickly. I want to thank our witnesses again for sharing their time this afternoon, and I look forward to exploring these issues in greater depth. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.